What's up, guys? It's Frank with Battle City Games, and today I'm here to bring you guys my very first deck profile for the channel, and that is Drytrons. We got some brand new Drytron support in the latest set, Lightning Overdrive. We got Diviner of the Herald, Fairy support. We got Mu Beta Fafnir, Drytron support, and when you put those together, you get a really good Drytron deck. So, without further ado, let's begin. We're going to scoot everything to the side. And we're going to go ahead and start off with 3 Drytron Alpha Thuban. So this is your main man in your deck. Drytron Alpha Thuban is the guy you can blow up another Drytron or Ritual Monster, and then you can special summon this guy out. Typically, best case scenario, you blow up the Ben 10, special summon him. You get to search for them both. And what he allows you to do is search for a Ritual Monster. So typically, you're going to go search Ben 10 with this guy. Obviously, Ben 10's down to 1 now. So a lot of the times you're going to try to get access to Ben 10 early, and when you get access to Ben 10, let's say you have access to Ben 10 already, you can go search something else with this guy, like the 4000 Drytron Ritual Monster, or you can go search out Ida-10. You can go search out Ultimateness, and Ultimateness is also your win condition, so obviously you want to search out that. So Alpha Thuban being your main man because you can search a Ritual Monster with him. Second 3 of that we play monster-wise is going to be Drytron Zeta Adiba. So this is your searcher for Meteonis, and Meteonis Drytron is your ritual spell card, and that is the card that you use to bring out your ritual monsters with. So you absolutely want to get to that ritual spell card, and not having that ritual spell card can put you in a really big damper. So we run this guy at 3 to help make sure that we can get to our ritual spell card. Both Alpha Thuban and Zeta Adiba are the 2 best Drytron monsters, pretty much in my opinion, and what seems to be everyone else's opinion. So those are the 2 that we run 3 of. So moving on, we're doing something a little bit different than a lot of other people. A lot of other people are playing 1 Gamma. We're actually playing 1 Gamma, 1 Delta Atias, and 1 Beta Rastaban. Mainly because, so this is a 40 card deck, and I didn't want to change the ratios of my spells and stuff, and you'll see that coming up. I wanted the same consistency. However, I didn't want to feel like I was giving up, something. And I felt like a lot of the times I just didn't need the second Gamma. So with that being said, I said, well, I feel like a second another Drytron name would be very impactful. And it helps as an extender. And if you draw it, you can actually use it. Versus if you drew 2 Gammas for whatever reason, you really can't use the second one. So that kind of can throw you in a loop if you don't have the right combination of cards. And because this deck can play a lot of 3-ofs, if you're not careful, you can just brick with having too much of something and not enough of something else. So with that being said, I try to be very careful with ratios. So we're going with 1 each of the other Drytrons since we play 3 of the others. So that brings us to 9 Drytron monsters total with your 5 different named. Which is very important. So our next 3 of, as far as monsters go, is going to be the 3 of Diviners. So Diviner is self-explanatory, kind of. She allows you to dump Herald of Arclight from your extra deck to your graveyard, and when you do that, you can actually add a ritual monster or a ritual spell card to your hand. So she doubles as a search for your Meteonis Drytron to special summon your ritual monsters, or for the ritual monster that you may need. And again, because this deck seems to search whatever you need, it's just one big toolbox, especially when you add the Diviner into the deck. So Diviner's huge, drawing her is huge. This is what you typically will use your normal summon on in the deck, which is why a lot of people have moved away from playing the Vanities. Vanities was played for a little while, if you guys don't forget. But with the new format, because you would use your normal summon with the Vanities, people have moved away from that. Normal summon is now used for your Diviner. So that is 3 of her. So next up, the 3 of with the fairies, we play Herald of Orange Lights. This is your hand trap. This is your kind of your generic hand trap. What is so special about this deck is that, honestly, if depending on obviously on what your opponent draws, as far as if they were to draw, let's say like an Ash Blossom or a Droll, if they don't draw any hand traps against this, all you need to go off really is two cards. And that can be a combination of a lot of different things. But let's just say a Diviner and a Drytron monster, or two Drytron monsters. You can just really go off with that. So the Herald of Orange Light is the only hand trap I feel like we really need. Herald of Orange Light can double as a negate to your opponent's hand traps, which is really nice. And because you only need a couple of cards to go off, you can sacrifice the other card in your hand, typically the other fairy, to activate the Herald to negate set effect that your opponent may be using against you. So that is the only hand trap we play, because we want to go really as much with consistency as we can. So because Herald doubles its consistency in a hand trap, this is your hand trap that we play. Next up, we play double Eva. Eva is stupid in this deck. You could almost, if you had enough fairies, which in a way you do, depending on what your starting hand is and everything, you could almost play 3 Evas in the deck just to continue to generate negates for ultimateness once ultimateness is on the field. And it's so easy to bring ultimateness out that it makes a lot of sense sometimes to see it. However, you really don't want to see Eva in your hand. The Eva dump now, used to you wanted to see it more to your hand and you would dump it to get the effect. Nowadays, you can bring out Beatrice, because with Diviner doubles as a, when she sends that Herald to the graveyard, she gets that level. So she doubles as a level 6 monster. And so because of that, you can overlay her and Ben 10 and make Beatrice. And Beatrice typically is part of your ending board. So you're going to send a card with Beatrice, and you want to send to Eva. If Eva's in your hand, you can't really send. And that doesn't mean that Eva's dead in your hand, because you can dump the Eva for an ultimateness negate, which is still really good. It's just Eva is really good to send with Beatrice, because you're going to get 2 sends with Beatrice, and you don't want to clog your hand with the Eva when you could have something else to extend with. So that does it for our Fairy Engine. Next up, for our Ritual monsters, we have Cyber Angel Natasha. Cyber Angel Natasha, this card is really funny. It's a super, super powerful card, but it doesn't do a lot most of the time. I find myself very rarely needing to steal my opponent's monster, needing to use Natasha really at all. But she doubles as a part of the engine, so you want to try to put the best cards in that engine to make it successful. And she is still a really good card. She can negate any attack against a ritual monster, and she can steal your opponent's monster by banishing another Cyber Angel from your graveyard. Special summons her back, and then she can take one of your opponent's monsters. So it's a really good card, really powerful effect. Like I said, just doesn't see a whole lot of play. Ida 10 is our next one. Just another fairy. Ida 10 is a searcher as well. Ida 10 can search your Meteonis. We have a lot of ways to search Meteonis. So very rarely, in my opinion, do you end up using the Ida 10 to search out a Meteonis, just because by that time you usually have the Meteonis. And a lot of the times you end up having access to the second one. Once you get your toolbox going in this deck, and that's kind of the point, once you get the toolbox going in the deck, you almost have access to anything. So it's kind of weird, and it can throw you off sometimes on like your ratios and what to put into the deck and what to see, because you don't always need a lot of this stuff to win, but you just happen to have access to it. So because you don't need it, you a lot of the times just don't go for it. But Ida 10 is still a good card to have. Another reason why we have the Ida 10 in there is she's a Cyber Angel. You can, send the Cyber Angel Ida 10. Since we don't have 3 Ben 10 anymore, you don't want to send your only Ben 10 a lot of the times. So setting up the Cyber Angel Natasha with the Ida 10 is a really good move. Next up, we play the obvious one of, and that is Cyber Angel Ben 10, another fairy, part of the just main combo of this deck. If your opponent gets rid of this card, it can be a bad day for you potentially. So Ben 10, like I said, can double as she's a searcher, and she can come back with Meteonis multiple times, so you can get that search off multiple times. Because she's at level 6, you can use her with Diviner when you send the Herald of Arclight with Diviner and make Beatrice with her. So she doubles as so many huge things. No wonder they had. I mean, they had to limit this card before. If this card was unlimited, this deck would not even need half the cards in it, and it would be absolutely just ridiculous. So, if you ask me, Cyber Angel Benton is one of the best cards in the deck by far, and she's an absolute staple. You need to be running her. Here's your win condition: Herald of Ultimateness. Herald of Ultimateness is a negate for special summon monsters, spell cards, trap cards, effects, just an all-around negator, and all you have to do is pitch a fairy card from your hand. So because of that, Herald of Ultimateness is your win condition because a lot of the times you have access to enough negates on your first turn, if your hand is good enough, that your opponent can't even play a card. So a lot of the times they have to have a hand trap on the first turn if they want to answer you. And I do play the Drytron Medionis Draconids. That is the ultra rare. This guy is really good. He's a 4,000 attack monster, so he can get over anything. That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I like him, is because, especially at like local events and stuff, when you're going up against some of the rogue stuff, you never know what you're going to get thrown up against, and sometimes having something bigger than 3,000 and having something that can be aggressive is really, really powerful in this deck. So this is your guy that you would want to bring out when you're trying to be a little more aggressive, not necessarily playing like more defensive and control based like you do with Ultimateness. Maybe you need to clear a board. Maybe you need to play yourself out of something. This guy can help a ton with that. This guy can also deal a lot of damage to your opponent because he's 4K. He also has an effect to where he can send up to 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field to the graveyard, because you can send Drytron monsters from your graveyard to the banish zone up to 4,000 attacks worth. So you can send up to 2 Drytron monsters, and because of that, you can send 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field to the graveyard. This guy is just, as you can see, he's got a wall of text. His effects are absolutely ridiculous, and he can double as not only a win condition, but like I said, he can help you play out of stuff. He's a Drytron card, he's a ritual card, so because of that, he just helps really synergize, and with the introduction of Drytron, Mubate, or Fafnir, it's become easier to bring this guy out. So we play one of this guy because of those reasons, and that ends with 5 ritual monsters. So guys, that does it for all of our monsters today. We are now going to move on to our spell cards. So we're going to start off with 3 Drytron Nova. Like I said, I try to be really careful with the ratios in this deck. This is one of those cards that, like, in my opinion, it's really good. Don't get it twisted. It's a stupid card. But because it's got that hard once per turn on it, you don't want to brick with a card like this. You don't want to see multiples of this card on your starting hand. You want the one copy. And because so many things are searchable, a lot of the times, you know, I'm not saying you see more than one, but you just run into that chance because you played 3. If we had like maybe another Drytron name, something along those lines, I maybe would drop this to 2. But this is a card that if the deck was just on the Drytron side was just a little bit more consistent with everything, I probably would drop this to 2. So this is still a really good card. We play it at 3 because of consistency. You kind of have to. And next up, we're going to have Cyber Emergency. This card is in a very, very similar boat. You can only activate this card once per turn, and because of that, it sometimes makes you wonder, man, you know, you don't want to brick and draw 2 because it essentially just becomes a dead card in your hand. So you want to be really careful with those ratios, like I've been saying, but nevertheless, because of consistency and because we want to see multiple Drytrons and get those effects going, we play 3 of this card, and it just is a Drytron Searcher. That's all it doubles as. The other good thing about the card, if you didn't know, is that if it does get negated by your opponent's card effect, you can discard one of your cards and actually add it back to your hand. So it's not the worst effect in the world. You know, it could be used the following turn, but by that time, you've either probably died or won, so it doesn't matter. The next 3 of that we play actually is Forbidden Droplet. This is one of those cards. It's kind of a choice. You don't have to run the droplet. You can run, if you can't afford it, or if you want something a little bit more budget, because the deck is quite expensive. You could run, Dark World No More. You could run, another Gamma. You could run Instant Fusion. I'm not running Instant Fusion in this, so you just have some other things that you can play with ratios. They just help with consistency, make the deck just a little bit better. For us today, though, we're running the Forbidden Droplet. And excuse me, we are playing the Instant Fusion, so sorry about that. If you want to, though, like we're playing 41 cards in this deck, so if you want to drop like a Forbidden Droplet off just to play 2 or something, you could. But I like Forbidden Droplet. It's helped me play out of a couple of things. And because the deck doesn't need a lot to get started, it's easy to discard a card, like I said before, to kind of, mitigate if your opponent opens up something stupid turn 1. So those are our 3 ofs for the deck as far as the spell side goes. Next up, we run 2 Meteonis. This is your, one of your main spell cards in the deck. This is the card that gets your ritual monsters out. It can get anybody out, and you can use the Exceed Mu-Beta Drytron Fafnir. You can use his materials as pieces for your ritual monsters, so it's really cool. So you can have him on the field with 2 material, activate Meteonis Drytron, discard one of the materials from him, and actually bring out Ultimateness. You can discard 2 of the materials and bring out Draconids, and still keep your 2000 attack Mu-Beta Drytron Fafnir, and you could have the ritual monster on the side of your field as well. And after that, you could really honestly decrease the Mu-Beta Fafnir's attack and bring this back to your hand if you needed to activate it again and bring out another ritual monster. So this card as a 2 of, we used to play it at 1, but this card as a 2 of is a must. We're actually going to leave this up there. So our second 2 of is going to be Fafnir. This plays into the consistency role. We don't want to open 3 Fafnir. We just want to see 1. And honestly, we want to see this in the Meteonis or this in the Nova. We don't want to see 2 Fafnir. We don't want to see, basically we want to get one of each of these spells. We want to get 1 Meteonis Drytron, and we want to get 1 Drytron Nova, and we don't want any more in our hands. So because of that, we just play the 1 Fafnir because those are the only 2 cards that we search with it. Fafnir is a field spell card, so it helps protect your monsters as well a little bit. So because of that, we run 2 Fafnir. Onto our next consistency card to help with what we need, we play 2 Pot of Prosperity. Again, you don't want to open multiple Pot of Prosperity. And if you start opening multiple of these cards that you play 3 of, you will brick your butt off. So we run 2 Pot of Prosperity. This also helps mitigate the budget a little bit because you're playing so many expensive cards in this deck. Dropping it down to 2 Prosperity just makes a lot more sense. And it just helps, like I said, with consistency. Sometimes you don't draw what you need, and because you don't need every single card in this extra deck and a lot of stuff is expendable, it's worth taking the risk on at least 3 cards from your extra deck to help with consistency. So that's why we play 2 Pot of Prosperity. We're on to our 1-ofs. Foolish Burial is kind of self-explanatory. It essentially doubles as a named Drytron monster. It can be a fairy or a ritual monster if you need to get it to the graveyard so that you can activate Meteonis to bring it back. There's, it's also a good thing about it, but a lot of the times you can use it as a Drytron name to get that to the graveyard to get the effect off, like Gamma, dumping the Gamma, activating its effect, bringing the Gamma back, and then special summoning another monster, and then going off from there. It's just a huge play. So Foolish, like I said, mainly doubles as another Drytron, can double as another ritual monster as well. Next up, we play Call by the Grave. Again, this card is limited. It's kind of self-explanatory. Your opponent drops Draw on you turn 1, and you open Call by. You drop the Call by, and you proceed to wreck them, typically. Call by is just a protection card to make sure that your opponent doesn't do anything crazy against you. I know some people have mixed feelings with this card on, what they think as far as it being really good or if it should be banned or at 3 or whatever. Nevertheless, that doesn't matter. We play it at 1 because it can help, mitigate you getting hand traps against you. We play one preparation of the rites. The big thing about prep is that it searches. It can search your ritual monsters, and it can also add Meteonis back to your hand from your graveyard. We only play this at 1 again just to help mitigate, help with consistency, but we don't want to open multiples of this card. We have plenty of searchers, and the consistency seems to be pretty good. So because of that, we only need one preparation of rites. Our final spell card, and this is what makes the deck 41 cards, and it was tough because I'm not a guy that plays, more than 40 cards typically. But because of that, we're playing the Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is a really good card. You can play it on turn 1, bring out Millennialize, and he can protect you from hand traps. He is also a 1-star, so if you special summon a Drytron, he's easy to use to go into your Mu Beta Fafnir on turn 1. So if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't play it for just a hand negation. I feel like, there's other ways to play around that, but because he can help with consistency and getting your combos started, and double as a potential negate that can stop those combos from starting, he is absolutely a card that you want to have and have access to, and Instant Fusion gives you that access. Also, we play Elder Entity Intis in the extra deck to just, again, help with consistency, and you can make Beatrice with that card. So that's what makes this a 41 card deck. Guys, that was it for the main deck. We're going to go ahead and hit on the extra deck. We have 2 Mu Beta, Drytron Mu Beta Fafnir. Sorry if I've been messing this card's name up, but it's Drytron Mu Beta Fafnir. This is your guy that just came out of Lightning Overdrive. Super, super great card. He takes 2 level 1s, and when he's summoned, he sends or he dumps a card from your deck, a Drytron card from your deck to your graveyard. You can dump the ritual monster, you can dump the ritual spell, you can dump a Drytron name. So because you can dump so many options with him, and it just gives you options to fuel whatever you need for your turn. He is absolutely a card that you want to see and use. He is also a negator if you have a machine Drytron on your side of the field, a machine ritual on your side of the field. So if you happen to have the 4K Draconids on your side of the field and this guy live with a material, which is possible with this build, then you have yourself I believe, spell and trap negate. So that's really good. And then the last thing that he does is, and we talked about this earlier, is he can be used, or the materials on him can be used as ritual pieces for ritual summonings. In other words, you can have 2 materials on this card, activate Meteonis Drytron, dump the materials off of this card to special summon a ritual monster. And that is absolutely insane. So he is a 2-of, mainly because you can use him more than once per turn, or you can't use him more than once per turn, but you could go into him more than once per turn if you needed to, for Meteonis. And he's, like I said, that generic, so he's easy to get into. We want him at 2 because of that, and we play Pot of Prosperity. We don't want to lose him, both of the copies of him, or just a 1 copy of him. So if you lose one, it's okay. You don't need both of them. It's just good for backup. Our next 1-of is Kikin Nagashi Fucho. Again, kind of self-explanatory, easy to go into, and this is part of you being able to go into Zeus, just for protection mainly, or if you need to out some boards. Our next one is Beatrice. We talked about Beatrice and how essentially she's an extender. She's going to be able to send anything you need to the graveyard from your deck, but mainly you're going to use her to send Eva so that you can get the Eva effect off and get more fairies to your hand to continue on either A with your turn or for negates for your ultimateness. The last Exceed that we play obviously is Divine Arsenal Zeus. This guy is a really, really good card, obviously. He can completely blow out your opponent, and your opponent can not have any answers to him. So he's just good to clear out things, and it's just good to have on your side. And like I said, because you don't use everything in the extra deck, it's good to be able to kind of have a variety of things you can go into. One of those cards that you want to be able to go into if you need them. So that does it for the Exceeds. Next up, we're going with Synchros. Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is who you send with Diviner so that you can add Meteonis or a Ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Herald of the Arclight is one of your main combo pieces. We run them at 2 because we run multiple Diviners, and because, the game goes on for longer than 3 turns, believe it or not. We may have to go into another Herald, or may have to see another Herald to get some combos off. So it's just good to have Herald in there. And those are the only 2 synchros. I'm not interested in going into anything else right now. I don't think that synchros are too powerful right now with what we have going on. So I think Herald of the Arclight will do for now. Talked about being able to go into Millennialize or Restrict earlier, and Elder Entity Intis with the fusion, instant fusion, and we also talked about why we use instant fusion and why these cards are good earlier. Again, Millennialize, Restrict double as a negation for your opponent's hand traps, and you can use them to go into Mu Beta Fafnir. Elder Entity Intis, on the other hand, can be used as a, you can bring her out to, if you've got to get rid of something on your opponent's side of the field. She's a level 4. So I may have made a mistake earlier and for whatever reason thought she was a level 5 and you can use her to go into Beatrice. That was a mistake. You cannot do that. She's a level 4 and she's used to out some things on your opponent's board. And she's a 2500 meter as well. So just another instant fusion target in case you need to use it and get into her. She's also a fairy. So Link Karibo as our Link 1. We just use this to help Link climbing, sometimes as defense if you need to, but if you have this out for defense, you're in trouble. So just Link climbing with Link Karibo. Next up, we play Lena. Lena's really cool. She's a new card out of Lightning Overdrive. What I like about Lena is that you can actually use her to bring back a card from your opponent's graveyard, a light monster. And again, she can be used as Link climbing. So she just synergizes really, really well with the deck. We play the Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. Those are the only 2 pieces of the Nightmare engine that we play. And then we play IP Masquerena and Appaloosa as our last 2. Typically, you're going to end with IP on your board with, let's say, Ultimateness and a Beatrice or something attached to it. But this just to give you options so that you can go into other cards that you may need to out your opponent's boards. So, guys, that was my very, very first deck profile that I'm doing for the page. A little nervous. I know I made a few mistakes, and forgive me for those little mistakes that I made. Try to edit some of those things out. But nevertheless, super excited. This is a really fun deck that I've been using, and it's been growing on me a lot here lately. Guys, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe because we have a lot more content coming for you guys. T gets plenty more profiles coming your way. I'm going to have some profiles coming your way. We're going to have combo videos coming your way and deck tutorials coming your way since we hit over 100 subscribers. And again, thank you guys so much. We are going to go way past 100, but this is just the beginning. So we appreciate you subscribing. This is Frank with Battle City Games. Check you later.